Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and I want to cover something special that I picked up at OhioCon this year. As many of you may remember, last year I found a different book regarding collecting the Transformers toy line. Well, this year I found something completely different. We have right here a model kit featuring Optimus Prime. So we're going to get this bad boy out and build him up and take a look at him. And here he is. This was a relatively simple snap-together model kit of the great Optimus Prime. I'm not exactly sure which version of Optimus he's intended to be. So we'll basically assume it's a Cybertronian version, but at any rate, that really doesn't matter. The biggest importance is it's not the Michael Bay version, so that in and unto itself is a good feature. Now, however, the one thing that I do want to point out to all of you is that he does not transform, so that's a bit of a downer, but this model is very, very articulated, more so than any of the toys that have ever been released. I mean, we got the head here on something of a ball joint, so it can rock back and forth, and it can be turned from side to side with considerable ease. He does have articulation at the shoulders, so you can rotate his arm all the way at the shoulder. There is a joint at the elbow, so you can bend his arm at the elbow and up at the bicep as well. There's also a second joint right under the shoulder that does allow the arm to swivel back and forth. So he would have what G.I. Joe collectors would refer to as a swivel arm battle grip. The fists can also be rotated at the wrist. There's several joints here in the torso, so you can wiggle just above the hip and up at the top of the chest as well. There is a ball joint there at the hip so that you can raise the legs up about so far. You can bend his legs at the knee about 90 degrees, and you do have positioning for the ankle. So, all in all, you do have quite a bit of articulation. That's held together with some rubber pieces and plastic posts in between. Of course, we got to be a little bit careful here. He does pop apart there at the hip pretty easily. This is why the instructions recommended that you glue it in. Excuse me a second. Now, of course, you do have a little bit of custom options when you do build Optimus, and they all concern for his right fist. As you do have a closed fist that's very similar to the left fist, and you have two open fists that are intended to hold on to the weapon accessory that he comes with. Pull out this one here so you can get a closer look. And of course, this one is holding his infamous ion blaster. So it was nice that they included that as an option, but he does have a second weapon option in the form of an axe. And of course, this isn't attached to the fist due to the fact there is a piece down in about here that you can put on to optionally cover the hole, which would be where the hand would be built around it to hold it. Since they didn't give him open hold fists like that to insert and remove the weapons, but they also included some extra clips that can be attached onto Prime's backside, where the weapon that you aren't using can be stored. Just unfortunately, he does not store the weapon very well. At least the axe doesn't store very well. Since I've mounted the fist on the gun, it would look kind of silly to have that without it. But unfortunately, too much jarring, and as you can see, the axe falls right out. So that's another negative about this, that it doesn't store the weapons very well. That, and I'd prefer that it had some other means for the hands so that you could interchange the weapons as the mood takes you. Of course, by now, I'm guessing some of you viewers are probably going, "Hey Sparkster, why would they make a model kit for a toy?" Well, actually, this has been done for quite a long time. Let me show you. To talk about this fully, we gotta go back in time to 1982. Now, while there may have been some built prior to that, this was probably about the time when several of them were turning up. Hasbro partnered up with model kit company Revell Models to make vehicle duplicates of their G.I. Joe vehicles, which were also being released in 1982. As you can see right here, we have the model kit of the attack vehicle, known as the Vamp. They also released ones at that time for the Ram motorcycle and the Mobat battle tank. Of course, these models were built to also be roughly to the same scale as the action figures, so you could put a G.I. Joe figure inside this model kit and use it as a substitute for the real Vamp toy. But, as this is just a plastic model kit, it is not built to handle the rugged play that would be associated with playing with the toys. This would be better served as a diorama piece that you could insert your own figures into. Of course, this thing also causes a little bit of trouble with collectors, as the steering wheel in here is sometimes found to be removable. This one, on this example, has been securely glued in, so I do want to thank the previous owner for doing that. But apparently the steering wheel can be removed, and it is not the same steering wheel that is used for the toy, so collectors often have their money wasted buying the wrong steering wheel for their vintage Vamp. I want to give a shout out to G.I. Joe reviewer Hooded Cobra Commander 788 for pointing this feature out to me. Thanks a lot, Hoodie. Mattel would get in on this idea. Sorry, my focus isn't working. Mattel would get in on this idea by using their now purchased Monogram model company to make vehicles for their Masters of the Universe line. As seen here on this advertisement, they made the Talon Fighter and the Attack Track. Not shown in this ad was the Evil Warrior's Roton vehicle, and like the G.I. Joe vehicles done before them, these were built to actually handle a He-Man figure. So these could also be used as substitutes for their toy counterpart, despite the fact they weren't really built to handle the rough play. So again, they would be better suited as a diorama piece. Then about in 1984 or 85, Monogram would be contacted by Tonka to make model kits of their GoBots toy line. Tonka would have 4 small ones like these made that featured actual pullback motors so they could be played with as actual toys. While they weren't made of the metal that the regular GoBots did have, these model kit versions were rather sturdy and could reasonably be played with by children. However, Monogram would also release a couple of larger GoBot model kits that were intended to be Leader 1 and Psykill. And for those, they went in a different route, as we can show off here, because I have the instructions right here for Psykill. They went a different route with these, and actually acquired some from Japan, due to the fact that they left this logo here on the instructions for Tatsunoko Productions, an animation company in Japan, but if you look right next to it, it says Mospita. Mospita is better known to many American fans as the third season of Robotech. So that makes the model kits of Psykill and Leader 1 very highly sought after. Tonka would have a third large GoBot model produced called Trans Am, but he is not based on any existing GoBot. That one is extremely rare and very expensive to find on the internet. So as you can see, this has been done before. It's just not a very common thing due to the fact that these are kind of a niche. However, it still kind of begs the question, why would they do this? Well, war dioramas are something that have been a popular thing in Japan for a long time, especially with the advent of many of the model kits that are available for many of the powered mecha anime series, like most notably the Mobile Suit Gundam series. So right here I have a large model kit of the gun tank from the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and as you can see, if we stand it up right next to Optimus, that almost doesn't look too bad here. Standing right next to him like that, so you'd almost could say that these guys are roughly about at the same scale. Maybe not entirely, but they are pretty darn close to each other in terms of size. So maybe they could be pitted against each other in a battle. It's not uncommon for many in Japan to devise their own diorama scene depicting their mobile suits in a heated battle, as there have been a few anime series that have even shown the characters going through the process of making their own dioramas. I especially note an episode from the 90s anime Martian successor Nadesco, where the characters did spend the bulk of it building a diorama to put their battle mechs in, and showed off some of the things that were used to create the proper effects for the diorama and on the models themselves. So it's definitely an interesting thing, and it does hold some promise here for Optimus and any other future Transformers they decide to make. Well, now that I've given you something of an education and shown you off a rather interesting thing I brought back from my convention, now we'll get down to my thoughts. What do I think of this model kit? I like it. I really do like it. I mean, I do have the gripes about how the hands were devised. I really wish something else would have been done so you could interchange the weapons easier. I don't really like how the weapons store on him, because they don't store very securely. And of course, like many, I'm not too happy that he doesn't transform, but I can overlook the lack of transforming. That I can overlook. I mean, it would have been nice if there had been something, so that way if you were setting up a battle diorama with this, you could set him up as in mid-transformation. That'd probably look kind of cool if you could do that. But at any rate, I'm satisfied, actually, with what we've been given with this. I'm actually very satisfied with it. Now, of course, it doesn't give an age recommendation for who would probably what age group would be able to build this model. But I would probably say, without going into ages too much, I'd rather say that you'd want a model builder that's somewhat experienced to put this guy together. There were some difficult areas. As you can imagine, the head was a little bit on the complicated side to put together, as you did have to fit in a clear blue piece to be the eyes. And as you can imagine, that was a very small piece, so you definitely want somebody that's built models before. If they've built some Gundam models, that would definitely go over very well, as they'd have some idea as to how the joints and connections like that would fit together. But even if you don't have that kind of experience, this really wasn't all that difficult to put together, especially if you take it slow and easy. That would be my recommendation for anybody. But all in all, it was a nice thing to build. I had a lot of fun building it, and I kind of hope that sometime in the near future, more will be available. Although it'd be nice if I had some space where I could set up a diorama to pit them in one of their mortal battles, but I'm not going to go into that. But at any rate, this is definitely a top tier thing to look into, especially if you're into building models, or just to have as a nice little novelty for a toy line that we all love and enjoy. And that concludes my review of the 2018 or 19 release of the Optimus Prime Attack Mode model kit. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button down below and join up in our ranks. And don't forget to ring the bell so you'll be notified as new videos get posted. Please also share your thoughts about this model kit or the history of toy model kits in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.